Welcome to Dynamo's Dozen, the podcast that we bring you each and every single week, where we talk about whatever may be on our minds, from pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh shots and jocks, and everything in between, never forgetting the talc. And yes, I look a little bit under the weather today, and no, it's not because of what we're about to talk about. It's just purely because it's that time of the year where a former pro wrestler gets a nice visit from his back to let him know that he's still human and that the motherfucker is still there. But I am your host, Ian Dynamo Kelly, joined as always by my beautiful co-host, the shopkeeper, Niall Hogan. Niall, how are we today? And boy, do we have some news today.
Absolutely. We said it on last week's show, didn't we? God knows what we were going to bring you week on week, and boy, did this week knock it out of the park. Yeah, I'm all good at the moment, bro. Beautiful is a bit of a stretch, but I'll take it.
Listen, do you know what I mean? Get to your level in life and still looking good and still got those pearly whites and the, you know what I mean?
All good.
Looking fresh, man. Looking fresher than this kid here, anyway.
As fresh as can be. But yeah, we got some interesting news. Of course, it broke. First of all, we had Steph taking a leave of absence again. Said she had been thrust into the position with Vince taking the sabbatical, and that she was on a leave of absence and she came back. She was going to go back on a leave of absence, but I thought that the key thing in her statement was, she has resigned. It's her resignation, not just a leave of absence where you're taking time off. She's absolutely gone from WWE. And on the back of that, then obviously we had the announcement, then stuff that was news that was breaking, that apparently a deal is being done to sell the business, that the Fed is going to go back being private again and come off the stock exchange, all to be confirmed, obviously, and that the buyer apparently was Saudi Arabia. So the
The
wrestling world went
consortium was really,
absolutely mad.
yeah.
Yeah,
We had a bit of a wild group chat yesterday morning, didn't we?
yeah, absolutely.
Ourself with the Dazzler, friend of the show. Dazzler would love to be here actually for this, but unfortunately he's on court, and not in court, on court, whacking the rackets like good old James E. Cornette. So shout out to Dazzler. Um, Interesting. Dazzler's maybe a good talking point actually from it, because there's many like him. He is a massive stalwart and massive fan of the WWE. It's in his blood. I would dare say he probably loves WWE as much as he loves his football team, his beloved Man United. Um, he's put a lot of money into it, made a lot of money out of it. But my God, when for every Dazzler, like for everyone like Dazzler, there's probably 10, 15, 20,000 like him. So
Mm.
when you're in that kind of situation, um, where the product is just starting to pick up again, and it's bringing the likes of yourself and myself back. I mean, we've always watched it, but it's bringing our interest back.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Like to know it's limbo almost at this moment in time.
Yeah, I suppose I think what the wrestling community sometimes forgets is that there is fans out there who are just WWE fans. They don't
Mm-hmm.
watch AEW, they don't watch New Japan, they don't watch TNA,
Like Dazzler,
they
that's
never
what I
watch
meant.
anything. Yeah,
That's what I
they're
meant. Yeah,
just
yeah.
WWE, WWF guys. And for them, this shook the foundations of their world yesterday. And again, we have to say, like, nothing's been confirmed. We don't know what's going to come out of it. Um, and we don't know what
There's
could
Vince calling
potentially
to
happen.
confirm it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know what's going to come out of it. So it will be interesting to see how it's all going to evolve. I was on a podcast last night talking about it on another channel, and I was talking about the fact that Saudi Arabia bought Newcastle United Football Club. And since then they haven't looked back. And the big thing for fans at the moment is, one, the concern from the roster, the concern on Vince coming back and what part he might play in it. Will it revert back to the kind of stuff we had prior to Triple H taking back over, probably around the SummerSlam period, and what way that would go. But if you look at Newcastle United, there hasn't been a huge influence from the ownership. They brought Eddie Howe in. They haven't treaded on his toes. It's business as usual football. They're doing really well, really successful. They're financially stable now and probably set for life with the volume of wealth that you're talking about. And you wonder how bad a situation would this be. I mean, obviously there's other issues there that we speak about. We spoke about them before the World Cup with Qatar as well, the human rights issues and the LGBTQ stuff and all their treatment of that type of stuff. But we looked at Qatar and they put on a fabulous football World Cup, a lot better than any of us perceived it would be. And potentially the business going back being private again could be a very positive thing as well, because they won't be under the constraint of a shareholder in terms of wanting to make business decisions. They won't have to worry about what the stock exchange is doing and what that might think in terms of their approach. And that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. So there's a lot of different layers on this one. I would say the roster one is a big one.
It's a very big onion, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
very big onion
yeah,
with
but
many layers to
the
peel.
roster in particular, because you're looking at a roster there at the moment, you've got people who are kind of don't know what's happening. The business is in flux. We've heard Ronda Rousey quote that the business is in flux. They're not too sure what's going to happen week on week now. Whereas I think with Triple H in charge and the way it was going, you had a very clear path from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, storyline to storyline, and the build and all was, and the metrics were coming up and stuff like that. So people were quite stable and quite happy in the way the business was going. Will Saudi Arabia want to continue that on? Is that the way they should be looking at it? Is it good for business? All the metrics are going up. These are money men, so they want the business to perform. They don't buy businesses to fail. And then where does Triple H lie in all this? What's his role going to be? Is it a case that he might have to walk away? Can he really coexist with Vince? When you look at what happened when he got sick and the way they basically tore down the foundations of what Triple H had built, like NXT and stuff like that, how will that relationship be? We don't know what the relationship is like with Steph. Obviously, she's resigned at the dad coming back in. Is that relationship maybe a little bit toxic? Who knows? With some of the other stuff that's gone on, who knows? And does that put Triple H in a very difficult position? And then you look at the roster as well. Like you've got a roster there at the moment. Obviously, 30 to 40% of it is women. Um, what's their treatment going to be like? Does that change? Is it business as usual? Will they be comfortable working under that regime? How many more crown jewels will you get every year potentially? Will they potentially set up an NXT for that region to develop talent out of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and places like that, and have NXT takeovers? And then you've roster members there, obviously, that came back on the promise of a situation, maybe Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, guys like that. Maybe they were sold something saying this is the way the business is going to be now. You're going to have more creative control. You're not going to have any of the stop-start nonsense or any of the stupid shit that's thrown at you, trying to test your metal, let's say, in terms of your dedication to the business. Will that all start to kick back in again? Will Bray Wyatt want to be there? Braun Strowman, guys like that. And then will we get another situation of reverting back as well, where, outstanding wrestlers like AJ Styles and Finn Balor, get shunted back into mid-card sort of crap because of the perceived situation of their stature or whatever it is. Absolutely phenomenal wrestlers and stuff like that, but treated pretty badly from a creative point of view under the old man. And there's so much of that going on. I'm sure most of the roster members over the last 24 to 48 hours probably haven't had a wink of sleep with what's happened, and would be very concerned. But again, because it's a publicly quoted company, as far as I know, they have to give the stock exchange either 30 days or 60 days notice of a change or a withdrawal. So we may not get any more information coming out about this. No one has come out and denied it's Saudi Arabia. They were basically last in the betting. They were the longest odds if you look at the betting in the States. The only one below them was Tony Khan and AEW, and that was clearly not going to happen.
Yeah,
And
I think Comcast and Disney
Comcast were
were
the
pretty much
favorites,
the
yeah.
same.
They were
And
the
then
favorites.
Disney weren't far behind either. I think Disney were up in the top 3 or 4 as well, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, Comcast, Disney, and then Endeavor Group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were the 3 top ones, and then Netflix was after that, and Amazon and stuff. So they were the ones.
I have a few thoughts on it. You know me, I like to go against the grain. It's not that I like to go against the grain, and I think people, that really know me, you being one of them, a lot of times I'll say things that are controversial, but it's not just always necessarily to be controversial for clicks and stuff like that. It's because I try and look at both sides of it. I had it with my own Chelsea Football Club recently, you know what I mean? And you're trying to weigh up the pros and the cons. And I think when it comes to the politics of it, you know, the Saudis and Qatar is a great example. It's actually a lovely example. When you look at how there wasn't much trouble over there, the authority is respected. Like at the end of the day, the Western world has to remember, not everyone wants to be like you. You know, there are parts of the world that have their own, whether right or wrong, it's their way. And it's, you know, it's been their way for, we cannot come in and be Team America world police all the time. It's caused too much devastation and divide over the years. I think anyone would agree with that. And that's not to say where our opinions on this show lie on politics, whether it's right or wrong. We're literally just making the point that you can't just change it in a day. But I think what you're starting to see is very subtle changes, that are becoming very big changes. The people in the Middle East really do appreciate the Western culture in terms of, you know, their basketball, their football, soccer, Formula One.
Sport is huge.
Sports is huge, you know what I mean? Movies and stuff like that. So, and I think you made a great point with the Saudis owning Newcastle United. I mean, they have to respect that there's female workers within that organization. There's female fans within that organization. They're not trying, it doesn't look to me anyway, that they're trying to impose their kind of views on that side of things. They're businessmen at the end of the day, and they're trying, I suppose, in some way, shape, or form to kind of get a foothold within that market and bring it over to their side. And I think WWE is a great point as well, because like we've started to see some of the women wrestle over in Saudi Arabia as well, not having to wear cover up or anything like that. So there's been little subtle changes that I think, you know, could be for the positive. Now, going back to the old man, I made this point. It's going to be controversial to some people. I don't think it's controversial. What we have to remember is, whether we like his booking, whether we like this, whether we like that, it's his baby. He did this. He built this. Of course, he wasn't just going to step away because of a couple of allegations. And that would tell me that whatever allegations have you know, transpired have obviously been sorted out either in the background or, you know, whatever. We don't want to get into legal stuff here on this, because at the end of the day, it's all rumor and innuendo. We're not judge, we're not jury. But I would imagine something's been rectified or something's been sorted in the background. So you will have a lot of reporters kind of also probably didn't sleep too well last night, knowing that the big man is coming back and he might be gunning for certain journalists that appeared on certain documentaries, we will say. So that's all, you know, again, to come. As you said, you don't know what's going to happen in the wonderful, weird world of cartoon pro wrestling. But I definitely think it's Vinnie Mac's baby. Of course, he wasn't just going to step away. No way. And if there has been a fracture in the family, and a fallout within the family, you're talking about a man that might have a certain level of narcissism in his DNA. Just saying, that will absolutely make him go, all right, well, fuck you then. I'm coming back and I'm taking what's mine, blah, blah, blah. You think I'm just going to hand this to you? So it is, a lot of it's going to be hearsay and stuff like that. But I would, just because it's Saudi money involved, I actually do think, if I was to look at the pros of that, and it does go private, could very well be looking at a situation where they are trying to appease the fans rather than trying to appease a board, and rather than trying to appease a network. Because listen, the networks will go with the flow once the ratings are in there. We've seen that during the Attitude Era. That won't be a thing. And also the stockholders and people getting paid off. Eric Bischoff had a great one on his podcast the other day. I'd recommend that people check it out. He talks about the actual financial side of it, in terms of how much money will have to be paid out to shareholders and stuff like that. But to these Saudi guys, paying people off, that won't be an issue. That'll be.
Yeah, I suppose when we think about Vince and we think of all that wealth, and I think that's a great point you touched on, like the naivety of people to think that this multi-billionaire man who built this up from the ground was just going to sit at home on his porch in a rocking chair, smoking a pipe and sit back while everyone flung shit over the fence at him and blamed him for every single problem in the world nearly over the last 6 months, and that he wasn't eventually going to come back out and bite. There was a bit of naivety there, and I mentioned it even last night. There was a bit of naivety even in the roster, because some roster members were coming out going, how wonderful this place is now without the old man here and all this kind of thing. So there was naivety there as well to think that this man was not going to come back, and he's going to be looking and going, oh, you had plenty to say, and you had plenty to say, and now I'm going to have plenty to say. And this is a man, this man sacked his son. So if you think that there's any loyalty at any stage in that company in relation to this man, if you're not doing what this man wants, you're out the door. But yeah, I think that was a good point to touch on. But the one thing that people are forgetting as well, this man is extremely wealthy. He's a multi-billionaire. But these people who are buying this, these guys are dealing nearly close to trillions. You know what I mean? These are different level. This is different level of wealth. And it's been very clear from that region that they want to move into Western culture and stuff like that, in terms of, as you said, sports and entertainment and all these things. And we've seen at times how brilliant the crown jewel shows can be. I mean, the last one I thought with Logan Paul and all, I thought was really, really good with Roman and all. I
Fantastic,
thought they knocked it out of the park. And I suppose the concern, I suppose, for fans is, well, is that going to develop even more? And are we going to get more of that and less of what we had? And then I suppose there's the whole thing. I mean, WWE, for all its years it has existed, has been very American, very patriotic, you know, the tribute to the troops, and you know, the 9/11 stuff they did, and you know, when people pass away, and all the links they have with the National Guard and all that kind of stuff and all. It's quite a patriotic company. You know, when you think of WWE, you really do think of the red, white, and blue and the stars and all that kind of thing, you know.
Hulk Hogan, yeah.
Yeah, and they always, you know, they always do huge shows and stuff around that and all that kind of stuff. So now they're going to be owned by Saudi Arabia, and that creates a very different dynamic then, you know what I mean? So the question is, if you're owned by Saudi Arabia, then are you going to be doing tribute to the troops? Are you going to be pushing the red, white, and blue and the stars and all that kind of,
not to be an asshole, but wasn't the Bush administration pretty much owned by Saudi Arabia? Isn't current America pretty much owned by China? So I call to all my American brothers and sisters, don't sweat the little things, lads. Just go with it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, but sometimes it's the cosmetic things that hurt the most. You know what I mean? And it's just the thoughts of, you know, it's the thoughts of, like, maybe, you know, I spoke to guys last night as well who are of similar vintage to me, who've been following WWE since 1985 and have followed it all the way through and stuff like that and all. And in fairness, some of the guys came on and they said, yeah, like, if this goes through, they'd abandon it, they'd walk away. And I was
give thinking, a shout out to the show that you're on. Do you want to give a plug?
No, it was Morris. Sorry, it was Cheapy Productions. Morris did a live show last night, and he had me on, and we were discussing the whole thing. Morris, check out his channel, fantastic channel as well, doing some real great interviews.
Friend of the show, yeah. I've been on it. I've been on one or two of his shows as well. He's a great lad, great really guests, great really, content. Really good,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But sorry, I thought I'd shouted it out. But
oh, that's all right.
He you know, we had a couple of guys coming into the comments and stuff like that, as I said, that were similar to me, have been following this for a long, long time, and they said they were willing to walk away, and I said, but would you really walk away? You know what I mean? It's one of those things. I don't think I could walk away. I love wrestling.
Isn't it kind of like these people that said that if initially, if Trump got in, they were moving to Canada.
Yeah,
they're still in the States, and then if Elon Musk bought Twitter, they were leaving the platform. They're still there.
Still grown.
It's just one of the. And look, I get it. It's human reaction when certain things that you're not used to or not prepared for. You haven't given yourself time to think. Your instant reaction is like, I'm out of here. Blah. It's like, how many times how many times have you had people in working under you, for example, or working with, that something happens that they don't like, and they're like, that's it, I'm out of here. I'm in the next 2 weeks, I am gone. 2 years later, still there,
yeah. But the thing that's funny about it is, and it's, you know, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone,
We're all guilty of it.
Because we've been fans for so long and we followed it for so long and we're entrenched in it and stuff like that, and we're all in on it. Excuse the pun, AEW. We're all in on it.
We'd be all in on AEW.
The problem is,
way.
We feel like we're all little mini owners of it, that we're all little shareholders, and that like every single word that we say should be acted on, and that we should have an influence and all this kind of thing. Where in reality, for WWE, for us, it's like our pro wrestling version of Netflix and stuff like that. And it's basically a shop for us. It's like a shop window for us for our entertainment and our merchandise. But we don't really have a say. And 9 times out of 10, we don't really act, with our feet. Like, no one's going to walk away from pay-per-views. No one's going to stop going to Raw and SmackDown. The reality is anyone who walks away is pretty quickly replaced. And I just don't see people walking away that way. I think it's a bit naive to think that you would just drop 40 years of your life, such a big part of your life and fanship and stuff like that and all, and just go, nah, that's just not for me.
Well, do you know what it is? I think when you look at some of the memes and all that have been doing the rounds and the GIFs and stuff like that, you see Hulk Hogan coming out as, what was it, in the
Arabia-mania or something.
Arabia-mania and stuff like that. And, they expect, like, to have Alibaba come in on the magic carpet in the main event that cost Brock Lesnar the title. Like, these are just their knee-jerk reactions. Like, in reality, what I expect is not much. It's got to be more at a board level and in the background level and the running of the business. It's very much like a football club. Not a lot changes. The aesthetics and stuff like that pretty much stay the same. So I wouldn't expect too much change. And look, H hasn't stepped down. I'd imagine. I don't know whether we don't know. There's probably been conversations.
That's the key one, isn't it? That's the key one. You see, nothing's really, as fans, nothing really is going to change, or probably shouldn't. The real thing that people are concerned about is Triple H going to be allowed to continue his development of the company in the way that he wants to do it, and in the way that most fans believe should be done? Or is the old man going to come in and just put the build on the head in the swimming pool, sink that ship again, and go back along to, transport us all back into the DeLorean back to 1985, where it was a big man's game and it wasn't really about talent, and people were held back and people were held down and only certain people rose to the top, and I think that's the real concern for fans. A lot of fans have come back to WWE. I see it through the shop. I've guys coming back in again now who had been gone for a while. The product has definitely improved. The metrics are all up across the board, and they're putting out a very good product at the moment. And it's very clever from Saudi Arabia. Their timing is very good as well, because if they do come in, all the broadcasting and TV contracts are up next year, so they have to be renegotiated, I'd imagine, halfway through this year. And we know what's happened with broadcasting rights and all that kind of stuff. The value of them has gone through the roof. Just look at football, monsters. So it's a real good timing for them to come in. The one thing I would say to roster members or wrestlers or staff in there, unless it's inflated and certain people have to be let go if there's too much staff or whatever it is, if they view that, and that can happen, or they might want to bring in some of their own staff in key areas and stuff like that. But for most people, the thought of working for a company that's so financially stable should be a big plus point as well. Then I suppose you have to get over the fact, well, are you happy that it's that type of money and that kind of thing? And then you have the whole Sami Zayn conundrum and stuff like that, and his views on these things and stuff. And, there's various different things there that have to be kind of trashed out and worked out and stuff like that. Am I concerned? Yes. Am I gone from 0 to 60? No. Because more often than not, when they do purchase these things, it takes time to have a look, and generally some of the changes that they might make might be for the benefit for a lot of people working there and stuff like that.
I agree. Well, let's put a pin in that. I'm sure by the time we come back next week, there will be more developments. What else have we got for today's show?
Just a couple of small news things, and then a little bit of history, not much, and then some birthdays. Obviously, Tony Khan is celebrating AEW in business 4 years, their 4th anniversary, happening this week. Can't believe it, 4 years of AEW already. You wouldn't think it, sure wouldn't. That has flown by. Ric Flair also has been on the Hall of Fame podcast with Booker T, and he was talking about the loss of Reed. He was going back to the time where he lost Reed, the son, and how difficult it was. And he said that, like, you know, he says he never drank so much as he did in his life at that time, trying to get through it and stuff like that. And all. I can't imagine what it's like to lose a child. You know what I mean? Absolutely heartbreaking. And then, of course, we had the video footage releasing of Dana White slapping the wife. They were at a New Year's Eve gig, I think somewhere down in Mexico, I think it was, in a nightclub or something like that. And this video footage released to TMZ, and the world and everyone else is calling for the man's head now. He's come out and he's made a couple of statements in relation to it and stuff like that. But sure, one Ariel Helwani is vying for blood. He wants that man's head on a plate. And of course, that's not surprised based on the history.
Nope.
But it'll be interesting to see. And you have a number of women's groups as well. Some caucuses, I think, in California have wrote letters to UFC hierarchy and stuff like that, suggesting that the man should be removed from his position or suspended or whatever it is. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how it develops. Look,
yeah, we won't give thoughts and opinions.
We're not gonna give too many thoughts on it, except to say that you should never raise your hand to a woman. I mean, that's the golden rule, really.
And I'll also add, a woman shouldn't raise a hand to a man either. It's two wrongs on this one. And no, I just wanted to mention that doesn't mean you turn around. Now, in fairness, I was expecting a dig. It was more of a, you know, the top part of the fingers. But regardless, I'm not defending Dana White on this.
You know from your wrestling days, sometimes a slap can be sorter than a punch.
You know what? You fucking can, especially if it's from a big man. But no, I just wanted to add that she also came out and apologized as well. She obviously defended her husband as well and said she shouldn't have done what she done, and he certainly shouldn't have retaliated the way he did. It's again, look, we're living in the world of cancel culture. People are going to want you cancelled when you do things like that. So I mean, if you put your what's the old saying? If you put your hand out to be slapped,
it'll be slapped. Absolutely, yeah. And it just goes to show, especially when you reach a certain level as well. There's nowhere you can go where you're not being filmed. Like, it's mad to think that someone caught that on a phone, that moment.
Well, it's one of those things as well where like if my missus, if Rachel hit me like full blast in the face, you know, A, it would have been for a reason, or B, it's because she was drunk, or C, it might be an accident or something, you know, she might have been playing. But never, ever, ever, ever in my wildest imagination would my hand come back to cock it, whether it be an open hander or a punch. So I think it's stupid. Do I think the man should be cancelled over it? Look, no. You know how I feel about cancel culture, no. But do I think he should be reprimanded and have to answer for it, and maybe I don't know.
But you know the wave you get. Sure, it's no surprise this man's heavily involved in the fight game and all that barbaric UFC stuff. And all. You know, this is the way it's going to go.
That's all it is. I mean, but no, I don't agree.
What's more surprising to me is that a dude was sitting in a nightclub celebrating New Year's Eve, and he just held his phone recording Dana White and his missus. And I was there going, jackpot. What the hell? Like, you know,
I'd say straight on to TMZ. He had a very happy New Year. Probably got about 60 or 70 G's and didn't even have to take a punch.
He probably got a lot more than 60 or 70.
Probably G's. More than that.
I'd say that was just to start the conversation. But
was that not Morris filming that night? Where was Morris that night? You can be telling you. Morris,
we missed the beat, didn't we? We missed the beat. So yeah, let's get into a little bit of history then to round out the show. 1959 in St. Louis, Missouri, Pat O'Connor became the NWA World Heavyweight Champion for the first time after beating Dick Hutton.
What a worker.
Pat O'Connor. 1993 at a WWF live event in Boston, Massachusetts, Bret Hart took on Ric Flair in the WWF's first ever Iron Man match. We would remember it well. The match lasted a full hour and was won 3 falls to 2 by Bret Hart after he reversed Ric Flair's figure 4 leg lock into a pin with 18 seconds left on the clock.
Hard enough match to find, right?
Yeah, not easy to find.
I had a copy of it on tape, and it wasn't on a Silvervision gimmick. Yeah. I remember. I can't remember how I got it. I think it was a tape trade with someone in the States in my late teens, and my God, I'd love to have that now, because we'll have to see if we can find it. If anyone can in the comments knows where to find that, Send it on to me and Niall.
You'd probably find it be up there somewhere now, maybe on YouTube or something like that, but definitely
Yeah.
it has to be out there somewhere, yeah. 2006, to celebrate winning the WWE Championship the previous night at New Year's Revolution from John Cena. We remember this. Edge and his girlfriend Lita put on the sex show in the middle of the ring and Raw in the bed. How could we forget that? Unbelievable.
There was a bit of a nip slip in that as well, wasn't there?
There was quite the nip slip in it, yeah. Not wouldn't be appreciated by potentially new Saudi owners, I would imagine. Just putting that out there. 1983 in Memphis, Tennessee, Nick Bockwinkel defeated Jerry Lawler to win the vacant AWA World Heavyweight Championship.
If anyone hasn't seen that, by the way,
very good.
do yourself. I mean, quick question. How do you rate the two of those guys?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler's work down in Memphis is the most underrated work on the planet. He was fantastic. And talking about a guy who ran a territory and knew how to bring talent in and book it and lie down himself for that talent as well. There's many a wrestler came out of Memphis a much better wrestler and with more cred than they went in with. And
Nick Bockwinkel as well, passing anyone hasn't seen that match of young Kurt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel. Bockwinkel passed the torch to him as well. Jerry Lawler, one of the best punches ever, by the way, just saying.
Absolutely. So real. 2000 WCW Nitro was in Buffalo, New York, and it will be Bret Hart's final match. You'll remember this well, of course, as a full-time wrestler due to post-concussion syndrome over the super kick from Goldberg. On the show, Hart and Kevin Nash fought out to a no contest. But yeah, that was a very sad time and a very sad end to an amazing career, and God knows how it would have went only for that. 1991, Ric Flair defeated Sting to win the NWA Heavyweight title in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Oof.
With the win, Flair also became the first ever WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He held the title until he left WCW in July of that year. Of course, they had the falling out.
Big gold, yeah.
Yeah, what a belt. 1993, the very first Monday Night Raw took place at the Hammerstein Ballroom. We remember it well. In Manhattan.
Bobby Heenan was the star of that show.
Yeah. And would go on to be the longest running TV episodic show. Incredible history there. We talk about it. Yeah, that's why
Bobby Heenan, though, just a quick one with Bobby Heenan on that, like, trying to get back into the building, dressing up as a woman and all, and just, he was just, man, oh my God, what a great show. And yeah, incredible piece of history, actually, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I mean, when you think about that history of Raw as well, that's why, following on from our main event on the show this week, don't lose your mind. Sit back and take a handy, take a breath and see what evolves. This is how Raw has evolved, remember. 2019, the first ever NXT UK Takeover took place at the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool, England. In the main event, Pete Dunne retained the NXT UK Championship against Joe Coffey. But if you remember on the night, you'll be closely attached to this. Jordan Devlin faced one surprise guest, Finn Balor, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park.
And knocked the shit out of each other.
Yeah, what an event it was. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, coming from Blackpool and Regal and all that kind of stuff. Really, really cool. Great idea.
Love it.
And 2014, in a move that took fans and insiders alike by surprise, the Ultimate Warrior was announced for the Hall of Fame class of 2014. That happened this week, back in 2014. Very sad in the end. Quick notable birthdays. Of course, Brian Grandmaster Sexy, Brian Christopher, 1972, same age as myself, sadly passed away. Of course, Jerry Lawler's son.
Put a lovely tribute up on Twitter yesterday. Jerry Lawler just
saying it,
beside the grave. Yeah,
absolutely. Buff Bagwell, 1970. Good to see Buff doing well. He'd been struggling health wise and stuff like that. Looks phenomenal at the moment. Fair play to him. Hats off to him. Tamina Snuka celebrates her birthday this week, 1978. Likewise, Ruby Soho at the moment, ex Ruby Riot, 1991. Of course, Abdullah the Butcher, 1941. His birthday would be this week. Mick McManus, 1920, celebrates his birthday this week. One Mason Ryan, the Welsh Batista, I think, 1982, celebrates his birthday this week. And then, of course, R.I.P. Shad Gaspar, 1981, who tragically drowned trying to save his son, lost his life. One half of Crime Time. What a tune they have. Money, money, yeah, yeah. How fitting that is, the week that's in it. Had to put him in there. And of course, the man who coined the phrase, "It wasn't my fault," Snitsky, 1970. That rounds out our birthdays.
Wow. Wow. Brilliant. As always, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to add there. I think it was a hell of a show. We got through a lot to unpack. There always is, even when there's not much in the way of news. It's always great to go back and look at those, this week in history, and look at the birthdays and kind of. I know
It's
that's
amazing as we do the shows, the week in history and the birthdays that we produce are so normally linked to the headlines and the news that's coming through. Wrestling
yeah,
really does run in cycles. There's no doubt about it. No
yeah,
doubt about it.
100%. And you're, some of our listeners might be wondering why you're wearing that hat as well.
The money
Just
team.
you mentioned the money team.
The name on the contract's McMahon. Will it be Vince or will it be Shane? Who knows?
Who
God knows
knows?
what
Who
might happen.
knows?
Yeah.
But no, pleasure as always. Do
Yeah.
make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you get notified once the shows are up. Let us know in the comments your thoughts and opinions. Are you happy with the potential, pathway for WWE possibly going private, even if it does mean a Saudi ownership? Are you not concerned about that? Do you not give a shit?
Saudi versus Disney, which is the lesser of two evils?
There you go.
Who
Disney's owned by
knows?
China. Do you know
Who
what I mean?
knows? Yeah.
So there you go. But no, absolute pleasure. And do make sure you follow us on all of our socials as well. We're on Facebook, Dynamo's Dozen. We're at Dynamo's Dozen on Instagram and at Dynamo's Dozen on Twitter also. But until next week, Niall, pleasure as always. I have been your host, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, joined by the shopkeeper, Niall Hogan. Until next week, we are over and out.